Today on Detroit Muscle, we're going to the Pony Parade and you're coming with us. We've got a plain Jane 67 Mustang Coupe with a wish to fit into the Fastback crowd. So with help from Alan Shepley of Mustang Central, we're going to brace it up, chop it up, and weld it up until we've got ourselves a Fastback Ford.
No denying it, the first-generation Mustang Fastback is among the most popular, most modified muscle cars of the 60s. If you don't believe it, go shopping for one of these prized ponies. Prices for decent Fastback drivers have shot through the roof. Even a base project car will set you back on your billfold. But just think, Ford made more than 7 times more coupes. And they're still affordable. So wouldn't it be great to start with a 67 coupe shell like this and end up with a Fastback? Well, that's our mission today on Detroit Muscle.
Year one sent us all the Dynacorn sheet metal that we're going to need to do that conversion, plus a small upgrade. But before we can throw all this sheet metal at it, well, we got to get to cutting on that Mustang. You need to start with a shell with no front or rear glass, no interior, no wiring from the dash back, and don't forget to remove the fuel tank. Our coupe, well, it's a perfect candidate for this conversion. The roof here's got a giant dent in it. The quarters, well, they're all rusty and crusty. And the deck lid, well, you could say it's seen its better day. So if we wanted to repair this car, we'd have to replace all the same panels that it's going to take to make it a Fastback. So it's a shoe-in.
By the way, this is our friend Alan Shepley from Mustang Central, a company in Byron, Georgia, where they do all kinds of Mustang restorations and conversions. But this is your first ride with one of these deals. What do you think about it?
I'm looking forward to it, actually, Joe. We've done a lot of conversions like coupes to convertibles and Fastbacks using the old body parts to convert. But this is going to be all new parts. I think this is going to be a real popular conversion because it's getting harder and harder to find good Fastbacks, and there's plenty of coupes out there. So I'm excited to see exactly what it takes to do.
Okay, well, speaking of Fastbacks, I guess you might be wondering why we have this shell back here. What's the purpose of that?
Well, that's our prized possession, actually. I brought it out of the yard. It's one of our scrap cars. Actually, that car was bought to cut the roof off to make a Fastback. So I brought it up here with me so that we could use it as a reference for measuring.
Okay, so we'll be dead on with that thing.
Sure, it'll help.
Okay, what's the first order of business?
I think we're going to secure the car up and make sure once we cut the roof, we don't get too much flex, and then we'll start, dissecting the car surgically and getting the right parts out of the way to put the new ones on.
Since we're going to be cutting out pieces of the car that can affect structural integrity, we want to make sure that it's both supported and leveled out. That includes using jack stands to hold up the suspension and body.
A piece of angle iron stretched across the body in the same place on each side will tell us if we're leveled out. After all, the floor can have some small variations on it. Once it's leveled, we'll brace up the body with a few pieces of 3/4 inch square tubing. This is important. It can prevent some pretty major flex issues once the car's all cut up. The front kick panels, the rear floor above the axles, and the A-pillars are all staying in the car. And that's where we'll reinforce it.
Well, the next step's to remove both front fenders. Why? Well, pretty simple. That's to get to the front door hinges, which you got to use along with this rocker panel for horizontal reference to get the doors perfectly lined up. And you got to do that before we're swapping out the rear panels, or it's too late. Watch your toes, Tom.
So how are we? Looks good here. Got a good gap. Line up the top, middle. I got to work.
Are you ready to watch a classic Mustang get cut to pieces? Don't worry, we'll put it back together, only better. See how this pony comes apart coming up.
Now we're ready to start cutting here on our Mustang. The first slice we're going to make is right here at the end of the A-pillar because we're going to save it along with an inner brace that's welded to the bottom of the roof skin. And then all that cutting is going to be followed by a lot more surgical dicing. That's what I'm going to call it.
Now, a guy could use a cutoff wheel with a large disc, but this reciprocating saw will do the job with no problem. For the roof skin, a plasma cutter is the way to go. We aren't reusing any of this metal, so no need to worry about coming back and removing the slag.
The C-pillar will be another victim that falls to the teeth of the saw. Oh. Who cut this over here? I got it. Don't worry about it.
Well, Alan, you guys are quite a pair of cut-ups, really.
Oh.
Good job, seriously. Now, you got the thing looking like a convertible, but what's next
Well,
to get it
that's the
ready?
tempting part. You want to stop here and just enjoy it as a convertible,
Well,
but we have to
could.
push on and do the fastback thing. Actually, the hard part was the bracing. As far as what you have to worry about technically is getting the bracing in, which is not difficult, but very important to do, because once you've cut the roof loose, now you can have the flex. So we've kept that accurate. So now we're going to kind of take pieces or large sections out of this, kind of like a 7-course meal, one little course at a time, and make it manageable. And we're gonna focus down to the final product, which is surgically removing the small pieces to make ready for the new parts.
And not go too far.
Exactly. Right.
The next hurdle is getting the package tray out of the way. But it's not too tough. The saw and plasma torch will see to that.
We're ready to start cutting the quarters and the tubs out of it. And we're going to take the little torch head here and let it cut right along like so. That's going to leave a small ribbon of spot weld still attached to the floors, but we'll come back and take that off later. After the tub is cut, we'll start gnawing off the quarter panel. It's quite a precision instrument you have there, sir.
Absolutely, that's one of the special.
Perfect.
Last but not least, the taillight panel. Now, all this torching has left a lot of old spot welds to deal with.
All right, we've blown away most of the big stuff on this part of the car, so what we're doing now is we're going back to where it's important, where we're going to graft on the new stuff and clean up the area that we've left here. The purpose is to cut the major portions out to increase the speed of getting all this apart, but now we have to go back and finesse. One little trick you can use is take a pair of vice grips, clamp onto the leftover material, and then kind of pull against where it's spot welded in. And most of the time, this kind of stuff will break free and speed up the process and save you from having to drill all those out.
After the old metal is removed, we'll clean up our welding surface real nice with a grinder, and we're ready to move on. How y'all doing today? I'm getting tired of cutting on the Mustang. I think Alan is too, but the good news is, we got more to cut. We gotta get the drip rail out of the way and this extra piece of roof, then I think we'll be really close to putting on some new sheet metal.
The soothing sounds of an air hammer. They mark the removal of the last bit of roof skin.
I could pull this off, but I decided I'd just wait on Alan to do it, but you know.
The drip rail needs to go away as well, but the air hammer cuts through it like butter. We'll take a spot weld bit and drill out all that material on the roof. After that, it's pretty simple to remove that metal.
Last of all is the leftover metal on the A-pillar where we're going to be attaching our new piece. Now we're ready to put metal on the car.
Still ahead, it's the reconstruction of all that sheet metal.
Well, alrighty, now we've hit the point where we're ready to start fitting some sheet metal. We've got all our other Mustang parts skint back, and these old gnarly rusty pieces, well, they're treated with some Extend from Loctite. So, now I guess we're ready to try on those new clothes. Now, a few of you guys may have noticed that we didn't remove our rocker and the A-pillar on our Mustang. Reason being, well, ours were still in good shape, so there was no real need into taking them out because of the amount of time it would take. So we're going to separate it here at the wheel tub, and this factory joint at the top, and then simply slide this piece into position. Drilling out spot welds on our new pieces is the first thing to do. One good thing, it's a heck of a lot easier to see where they are on this new metal.
Now let's take a look at how it fits on our car. We're going to employ a menagerie of clamps and locking pliers to help hold things in place during reconstruction.
This brace that runs across the top is very important for two reasons. It strengthens the roof once everything is in place, and it ensures correct placement of the new metal.
We'll mock up our quarter panels to make sure everything is okay. They aren't ready to be permanently affixed just yet, but taking time to mock things up is always a good policy, especially with a complex operation like this.
We'll use the original spot weld locations to marry in this tailpiece, which lays the foundation for us to check out the tail light panel's fitment.
We're not going to mount that in just yet. I just wanted to look at it and see how we were doing. But we've gone ahead and clamped the taillight panel in. We want to make sure that our quarter panels and our taillight panel are lining up good. And so far, so good. So we're not far away from permanently attaching everything.
Tommy tells me it's about time to burn some more wire, or war as he calls it. However, before that happens, a lot more lining up and tweaking to be done. And we got two of the top tweakers in the business. These panels are going to be fitted by starting at the door and adjusting the B-pillar for nice even gaps. You have to make sure to leave a little extra room to account for the quarter panels, which wrap around the pillar at the front.
Our gap looks good up here, but it's a little bit tight right here in this point. That ought to work.
Stick around and scope out the Shelby surprise that we've cooked up for our Mustang conversion.
Welcome back. Our Mustang Coupe to Fastback conversion project has been coming along real nice. We've adjusted the gaps at the rear of the doors to fit the quarter panels well and can start burning the quarters in. Gap looks pretty good here at the top. We're going to go ahead and open the door up, zip a screw in, hold it in place.
Now the rear of those quarters can be moved into approximate position and clamped, using the inner sheet metal as a guide for placement.
Okay, now we're ready to tie this small filler panel to the quarter. Alan's got a cool little trick he does with two small pieces of angle iron. Burning in each one of these pieces on the opposite sides of the gap, you can use a locking clamp to squeeze the panels together, which helps create a tight fit that you want at this joint. Looks like we're ready to use those Tech screws to give the tail panel a more rigid fit before we weld it in. These cool little screws also help to suck the panels together when they go in.
That cross piece that separates the rear window and deck lid can go in place now. Then the tail panel can be burned in as well. These little corners go in now that the quarters and tail panel are mounted. We used a Matco hole punch to give us a few places to put spot welds. We want this ledge to lay down flat, so a relief cut will allow a body hammer to put it where we want it.
The trunk hinges are easy. Just a couple of bolts and you're there. Well guys, you know earlier I mentioned an upgrade. Well, this is it. It's a Shelby style deck lid and quarter extension that we got from year one. And they're made out of fiberglass, and oftentimes, well, fiberglass components get the bad rap for not really fitting so great. But I'm here to tell you, these components fit remarkably well. We're in the home stretch, with the roof being ready to weld on. A few dozen spot welds, and she's now part of the car. And our coupe is a fastback.
I'm amazed. You guys did a great job, and well, this thing's well on its way to becoming a real fastback. Your impressions? This is your first ride, I know.
Yeah, and I was very impressed, actually. This is something I would definitely recommend the Resto Mod guys to look into. Not so much for the original guys, but yes, the components made it very easy to do. Very impressed. I'm going to encourage us doing that at Mustang Central.
I bet you will. Well, Tommy won't be doing any because, you know, he's a Chevy guy.
Well, so much for that, huh?
We're always on the lookout for new tools that can make your work around the shop easier, and these Tite-Reach extension wrenches can save you time and maybe busted knuckles. This 3/8 Pro gives you 10 inches of reach for full rotation and can even be used with an impact wrench. And with this new bit adapter, you can even use it with any 1/4-inch bit fastener. And there's a 1/4-inch Pro model that gets you into the tightest of spaces.
Well, let's shift gears to a product from American Powertrain. It's their new 2nd gen White Lightning shifter with improvements made for better sealing and shift quality. The billet core now uses a Delrin ball for smoother actuation. 2 bias springs instead of 1 will increase the action for better 2nd to 3rd shifts. Adjustable centering bias lets you customize the action to your shift style. And the Revolution shifter offset provides more than 60 shift positions. It's less than a 10-minute install on a Magnum, TKO, T56, or T5 training.
Well, here's an upgraded version of America's first solid thread locker. Loctite's QUICKSTIX products now have the same advanced features of their liquid counterpart, meaning they'll work on a variety of metal substrates without cleaning or use of a primer. QUICKSTIX 248 Blue's ideal for general purpose nuts and bolts, and the 268 Red is their high strength material recommended for heavy duty applications like transmission bolts. And they're all available online as well as in many stores. Well, time for us to get on the stick and get you another Detroit Muscle ready. We'll see you next time.